Welcome back to Forgotten Hollywood. In college, I was basically known for my DVD collection, particularly the TV shows. I wouldn't say my collection was the most impressive around, but it was the best on campus, and it's grown since then. People have asked me why I waste money on physical media when there are so many streaming services out there. Well, it's true that larger streaming services have added some older shows, such as Gunsmoke and The Lucy Show. There are many, many more that are just not available. For example, here are a few from my own collection that you won't find on Netflix or Hulu. Please note that these are shows that are not included on a majority of streaming services, but not ones that you can't find digitally anywhere. Some of these are even available on Amazon Prime if you're willing to pay for them. And I personally don't like doing that to get a digital copy of a TV show, especially when they want you to buy per episode. It's just far easier to just buy the DVD set. You also might be able to find them on some of the more sketchy websites, and that I don't recommend either. Let's start with one I was actually surprised was not available on streaming, and that is Battlestar Galactica. Now, note this is the original from the 1970s. This is not the remake. This is not the spin off of the remake. This is the one that I personally love. I love the cast, I love the characters. It's a great blend of tragedy and triumph, drama and humor, and you cannot beat Lauren Green as Adama. Fight me on that if you want to, but I love Lauren Green as Adama. If you haven't seen the original, it's not quite the same plot as the remake. In this one, the humans were nearly wiped out by the entirely robotic Cylons, and the survivors trek across the galaxy in search of the legendary lost colony on Earth in hopes of finding a new home there. The feel is very much like a Western, a wagon train crossing the wilderness, facing the hardships and dangers that come with it. If there were metallic creatures on the Great Plains that possessed all the compassion and understanding of a toaster in their quest to wipe out every organic life form they came across. Think Daleks on two legs. Yes, some of the costumes and effects are dated, but personally, I don't think that takes away from the characters and plot. Overall, it's a solid sci fi that doesn't deserve to be overshadowed by its remake. The second is an example of the Warner Brothers Western TV lineup from the 1950s, and that is Sugarfoot. And this is only one of 6 shows that were part of that lineup in the late 1950s, and most of these are actually hard to find. I think of the 6, the ones that I have found to be streamable are only 2. That's Cheyenne and Maverick. Another 2, called Colt 45 and Lawman, are not only not available to stream, they were also never released on DVD, so they remain the only ones I have not seen. However, I did see episodes of Sugarfoot that had the leads on as guest stars. In fact, Will Hutchins from Sugarfoot is the only one who appeared in scenes with at least one star from all the other westerns in the Warner Brothers lineup. As a concept, Sugarfoot is one of my favorite examples of the roving hero. Rather than a lawman, outlaw, or cowboy, the main hero is a generally passive law student. While he has no problem using a gun when the situation calls for it, he often goes without one, and there is even an episode where someone asked him, "Where's your gun?" And he had to dig through his saddlebag and pull out his law books, and he's like, "Oh, here it is." His primary weapons are his quick wit and near photographic knowledge of the law. He's far more likely to outsmart his enemies than outshoot them. Think Perry Mason on horseback if Perry was in his 20s. If you can find it, I highly recommend it. Number 3 is a family show, Gentle Ben. It's from the same people that gave us Flipper and is very similar. It's even set in the same location. But the 2 brothers are replaced by an only child, the single father for a married couple, and the dolphin is swapped out for a full grown black bear. The cast include Rance and Clint Howard, the father and younger brother of Ron Howard, as well as Dennis Weaver, known for Gunsmoke and as the title character in The Cloud. Like Flipper, Gentle Ben included a lot of life lessons for kids, but they had a different way of going about it, where the two brothers would try to hide troubles from their dad until it blew up in their faces and they ended up grounded at the end of the episode. Young Mark would talk to his parents when he had a problem, getting their advice or even turning the issue over to them if it was something too big for him to handle, such as the episode where he found people who were poaching in the Everglades. The show had humor, drama, and the occasional danger, but it was still a wholesome show. It included important details like don't pet wild bear cubs. I wish there were more shows like this for kids nowadays. Returning to the Westerns, number 4 is The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr. Honestly, I had never even heard of this show until my husband recommended trying it out because of the lead, Bruce Campbell. Yes, that Bruce Campbell. I had yet to see a role of his that I didn't like, and I love Westerns, so I was eager to give this a try. It didn't disappoint. So far, I've only seen a few episodes, but it is the most ridiculous Western I've ever enjoyed. It has train robbers that seem to have learned their trade from Wile E. Coyote. My favorite character is a sort of mad scientist. I feel like the pitch for him was, we want Doc Brown as played by Gomez Adams. And John Aston said, I got you covered. It's goofy and fun and just what you would expect from a 90s Western starring Bruce Campbell. If you want laughs, check it out. Number 5 is a murder mystery series, Ellery Queen. Now, you can find at least one Ellery Queen movie on streaming, but this particular version of the show is not available. This is from the 70s. It was only on the air for a single season, but it did have a lasting impact that a lot of people are not aware of. The show follows title character Ellery Queen, a crime novelist and son of the city's leading homicide investigator. Ellery's brilliant mind is a great help to his father, assuming he can keep him on track. His scatterbrained approach might leave some people confused, but he gets results. The show is set in the 1940s, so there is limited scientific techniques to solve the crimes. Personally, I love period detective shows for that very reason. It's more interesting to me when they have to get creative to find and process and present evidence. After the show ended, the creators, Richard Livingston and William Link, built off this experience and made another show 8 years later about a novelist solving murders. Perhaps you've heard of it. Number 6 is the last Western on our list, Alias Smith and Jones. While not as off-the-wall goofy as The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr., it's safe to say this show is a lot more silly than the 1950s lineup from Warner Brothers. But this was the early 70s when Western comedies were very popular. The plot follows two leads named Hannibal Hayes and Kid Curry. They lead a gang of robbers until they realize that law enforcement is getting too good for them to survive in that life much longer. This leads to a deal with the governor for a pardon, if they can stay straight for a certain amount of time. I see this as sort of a predecessor to the A-Team, where these two guys, who are technically wanted men, try their best to help people and do honest work. It's a very enjoyable show and one of the few that I bought sight unseen just because the plot was interesting to me. Number 7 is one that I would actually be surprised if anyone knows this show. So please let me know in the comments if you have heard of this show or if you've seen this show, and that is the 1970s single season, The Magician. The show is sort of a combination of The Count of Monte Cristo and The Magic Castle with some of the roving hero, and the plot was interesting enough for me to buy it, also unseen, and the only reason I found it at all was because of the lead actor, and that was Bill Bixby. For those of you unfamiliar with the name, he was the first on screen Dr. Banner in The Incredible Hulk from 1978 to 1982, and was the human counterpart to the alien in My Favorite Martian from 1966 to 1968, in addition to a bunch of other roles on television and film. The Magician is, surprise, surprise, about a magician named Tony. He had previously spent time in jail for a crime he didn't commit, and well on the inside, he befriended a wealthy prisoner who died and left him his entire fortune. Now he uses his skills, as well as his wealth, to keep others from suffering the way he did by solving crimes and helping anyone he comes across that needs him. Sometimes this happens when he finds out about a situation and goes to seek it out and see if he can help. Other times, he's doing a show and he sees someone in the audience that is obviously in trouble and he has to help. I really like it, and it's almost like Knight Rider with smoke and mirrors. Well, that's my list, although there are many other great shows out there that you possibly have never heard of because of the inaccessibility. These few were chosen because they came out of my own collection. But these are just examples of why limiting yourself to streaming shows is limiting. There's so much else out there. Of course, I don't limit my collection to just what's not on streaming. It would be too hard since streaming services change their lineups all the time. So what I do is I just buy what I like and watch it when I want. It's really great because then I can say, oh, I feel like a Western. Or, hey, let's watch some Steve Austin. And just whatever I feel like, I can put on. Don't need internet, don't need commercials, just what I want when I want. And this is why I think physical media beats streaming every time. Thanks for watching. What's your favorite show most people have never heard of? Let me know in the comments, as I'm always looking for new shows to try out. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Click the bell for notifications, and I will catch up with you next time.